Hey guys, hey, this is Anne Marie in the AntiHR channel. And in this video, I'm going to talk about 5 essential tips for getting ready for performance reviews. It is performance evaluation time in many companies as we are nearing the end of the year. And so I want to provide some tips for you guys who are getting ready to have performance reviews. For those of us who are Black folk, especially Black women, these are things that you need to be prepared for, and you should not be going in blind, okay? Now, before I get into the 5 tips, I want to say a couple things about performance reviews. Now, performance reviews are usually the way that a lot of companies make decisions about bonuses and make decisions about raise if they're giving you more than cost of living adjustments. They make decisions about people's career trajectories based on performance reviews. I know in the nonprofit world, most of them do them once a year. In corporate America, sometimes they do them once or twice a year. And some of them sometimes do quarterly feedback type of things. But if you're in a place where the major review happens at the end of the year, usually if you're on a fiscal calendar year versus a July 1st calendar year or some other type of calendar year, then you're probably having your review sometime in the fall to the end of the year. And then new salaries will take effect at the beginning of the year. So if that's you, here are some tips. Even if you've already had your review, you can still use these tips for the next one, because I'm going to give you some things to think about in terms of preparing for your evaluation. Preparing for your evaluation should be something that you think about all year round. It is not something that you should only think about when you get that memo from HR that evaluations are coming up. But first, before we get into the tips, this is the AntiHR channel. On this channel, I talk about HR issues from the perspective of employees. I try to give employees information and tips to help them protect themselves in the workplace and to understand their workplace rights and to know how to assert those rights if they're being violated. So if that sounds like something up your alley, please hit that subscribe button. Please hit the like button. Please hit that notification bell so you know when videos drop. Please comment constructively and share this video with a friend. Okay, let's talk getting ready for performance reviews, right? First thing that you need to do when you're getting ready for your performance review is to gather your documentation that proves that you had good, exceptional, exceeds expectations, whatever the evaluation marker is, performance, right? And so you shouldn't be going into your review and not having any idea about how your performance is going, right? Because as I've said in past videos, you should be having meetings with your manager. You should be specifically and directly asking your manager when you have check-ins with them, how am I doing? And you should be documenting those meetings so that when you come in, if they try to come out of left field with something, you have lots of documentation to show that throughout the year, all the feedback you received from them was positive. Right? So you should be pulling all your documentation together so that you are able to not just come in a meeting and sit there like a log and have somebody speak at you, but you're having an interactive conversation with your supervisor about how you believe you performed, as well as listening to how they believe you performed, right? Now, one of the things that I think you need to do, of course, is to get the AntiHR Documentation Journal and be using it to document your work environment. And that should include issues around performance, right? So that you have an actual real-time, picture of how you've been performing month by month, day by day, week by week. So when you get to sit down with your review and talk to your supervisor about your review, you are prepared. And in some environments, they actually give you self-evaluations to do. And so the self-evaluation is an excellent way for you to toot your own horn, talk about your progress, the things you've worked on, the things you've accomplished, what you achieved for the company. Because remember, employment, jobs, social contract, they are hiring you on the open market for you to perform a task or a series of tasks for them. They are not hiring you to be your friend. You all are not family. They are not your friends. They are hiring you to do something and then paying you. So at the end of the day, all your performance really is about, or should be about, is how well you did that thing that they hired you for and how much value you added to the company. And that's what you should be documenting, right? So the second thing you want to do is you want to be able to tie your accomplishments to measurable results Okay, so if you were supposed to oversee a project or you were working on a project with your supervisor, you want to be able to talk concretely about the things that you did, measurable things that you did that contributed to the success of the project, which then contributed to the success of the company, right? So you want to be able to talk about metrics, numbers. If the project helped bring in a certain amount of money for the company, you should be able to know that and talk about that. Right? If an idea that you came up helped move the project forward, you should have documented how your contribution did that and bring it up in your self-evaluation or in your conversation with your supervisor. You shouldn't be going in there waiting to hear what your supervisor has to say. When you go in, you should be ready to talk about all the accomplishments that you did, all the things that you accomplished for the company in a measurable way, right? Metrics, numbers, data, right? And show how things that you did contributed to the bottom line of the company, to the success of the company, to the growth of the company, okay? That is something that you should do. So that's the second thing, tie your accomplishments to measurable results. Third thing is be prepared to address bias. The sad reality is we Black people, especially Black women, we are going to deal with the double whammy, what I call, you got to deal with the fact that you're Black and you got to deal with the fact that you're a woman, okay? And so you have to be prepared that you're going to come in there and there might be some micro and macro aggressions. You're going to come in there and there might be some gaslighting. You're going to come in there and there might be some outright lies being said about your performance. And so if you have done the first thing I said, documentation, and done the second thing I said, tying your accomplishments to measurable results, then it makes it easier for you to push back on bullshit, right? So someone says something like, we don't think you're a team player. You stop and say, it would be very helpful if you would define what you mean by team player. And then if you can give me concrete examples of me not being a team player. And that will allow you to push back on that. Or in many cases, they can't give you any examples because it's bullshit, right? But be prepared for folk to come out of left field with BS that has nothing to do with your actual performance of your work and everything to do with subjective crap about whether Karen, Nancy, Becky, or Brad likes you, right? But the reality is that if Karen, Becky, Brad, or Nancy, or Kyle, or Kevin don't like you for reasons that have nothing to do with work or your performance of your work, you have the right to point that out, that these are subjective things that have nothing to do with my performance of my work. And please explain to me why this is being factored into my performance. These are things you have a right to ask, right, in the meeting and make them tell you, okay? And then if they can't tell you, request that they take those things out of your review, okay? The next thing that you want to do is you want to revisit past goals and set new ones. So again, when you're talking about, your measurable accomplishments and results, you want to talk about the things that you want to do in the future that, again, is going to benefit the company, benefit the goals of the company, benefit the team, right? You want to talk about those things and highlight things, again, that you already did, plus also talk, prospectively looking ahead about the things that you want to do in the next year. Again, don't wait for your supervisor to tell you these things. You need to come to the table having thought these things through, right? And unfortunately, too many times, a lot of us come into these kinds of meetings and we're reacting to things instead of being proactive and coming in with a plan and a game plan for how we're going to have this conversation with our manager or whoever it is that is giving us the feedback, whether it's one person or more than one person, right? So again, revisit past goals and make new ones. Then the fifth thing is strategically advocate for yourself. At the end of the day, as I said before, work is a social contract. The employer-employee relationship is a social contract where someone buys your skills and your knowledge off the marketplace. They assign a monetary value to those things, and they pay you to do these things for them, right? And too many of us go into these relationships and don't treat them as the transactional relationships that they are. And too many employers pretend that these are not wholly, almost completely transactional relationships, right? And so you need to have a plan for advocating for yourself, asking confidently for what you believe you deserve. So if you feel that you have done a good job, right, and you have met goals, exceeded goals, helped the company make money, part of the conversation around your performance should be about what the company now needs to give to you, which is a raise, promotion, bonus, all of these things. So don't just lay out this stuff and say, I did these things, I added this value, I contributed in these many ways, and then leave it at that. You then need to say, I believe on the basis of the things that I have just shared with you, that I deserve a bonus in, this percentile or in this dollar amount. I would like to be promoted to manager, or I would like to be promoted to director, or whatever it is. People don't have to say yes, but if you don't ask for the things you want, the answer is always going to be no. So if you know that you feel you deserve a promotion and you deserve a bonus, go in there with all the audacity and mendacity of what I call the mediocre white man. Go in there with their audacity and ask for what you want. Right? Go in there with their audacity and ask for what you want. Do not sit and wait for anybody to give anything to you, because a lot of times people come to me and say, oh, I got passed over for a raise, or I got passed over for this, and then this guy, and then Brad got it, or Becky got it. And I'll ask them, well, did you ask for it? Right? And no, they didn't. But they're hopping mad that somebody else got it, right? And they feel that they should have just been giving these things. But the reality is, there is no one more audacious in the workplace than the mediocre white man. White men come through the door believing they deserve the world because the entire society has always told them they do. They will have next to zero experience, less than zero education and background, and expect to get a raise in the top tier in the first 3 to 6 months. Okay? Go in there with all your degrees and your experience with the audacity of a mediocre white man. Okay, and ask for what you want. And yes, they may not give it to you. And yes, we work in an environment that is racist and discriminatory. There's no question of that. But the other thing is, closed mouths do not get fed, especially not in capitalist society. So if you believe that you deserve something, you've got to go in there and ask for it, right? So don't just go in there and talk about everything that you did, or sit there silently and let someone else tell you what you did. Go in there, talk about what you did, talk about how it benefited and contributed to the success of your team, your supervisor, and the larger organization, and speak about it in concrete, measurable metrics, okay? Address any gaslighting, microaggressions head on by pushing back on them and questioning them, right? Revisit your past goals. Talk about how you're going to contribute to the company in the future, and then ask for what you believe the company owes you based on your performance, okay? And that will tell you right away how your company feels about you. Because if your manager or management refuses to give you what you asked for, then it might be time to brush off that resume, update it with all the things that you shared in your review, and start looking for the next opportunity. Because they are not your who? Family. Jobs are there to give you options, because that's all money does, to allow you to live a good life outside of work. Work should never be the center of your existence. It is a means to an end. So if they are not willing to give you what you deserve and what you desire, then it's time to start thinking about what the next thing is going to be. But those are the 5 things that you need to be doing and be prepared to do when you go into your performance review, right? If you want to have an experience that is different probably from the ones you've been having in the past. And like I said, if you know you're adding value, you know that you're helping the company be successful, and they're not willing to reward you monetarily for that, we don't want certificates. We don't want to be talked about in the all teams meeting. We don't want our picture on the wall. We want money. We want raises, bonuses. We want ends and dividends. That's what we want, okay? And if they're not prepared to give you that, then you need to be thinking about going to the next place who will. But do not feel that someone is going to give you something that you do not ask for, right? You have not because you ask not. So start asking for what you want and saying what you want, okay? And the place to do that is in that evaluation. And now, if after you've done all those things, you come away from that meeting feeling like there are problems in what was shared, there are issues in what your supervisor said about your performance, you need to push back, and not only push back in the meeting, but after you leave that meeting, you write them an email, a nice, polite email that lays out everything I just mentioned, okay? How you see your performance, what you documented, how you contributed, what your goals are for continue to contribute in the future. Push back on any gaslighting, any things that was said about you that are not true, and ask for what you believe you deserve. And do it in writing. Do not just go back to your office feeling a type of way and don't memorialize the conversation in writing. And even if it was a good meeting and your boss told you you're great and they're going to, put you up for promotion and all these stuff, still go back to your office and write an email to your boss and say, I had enjoyed having that meeting today, talk about my performance. I really appreciate, your recognition of XYZ that I did over the last review period. I was very excited and happy to have the opportunity to participate in the project and to add value and blah, 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 right? You know the things that they like to hear, right? And I'm very excited that you mentioned that you would put me up for promotion. Put it in writing. As I always tell you guys, if it is not in writing, it never happened, right? If it's not in writing, it never happened. So whether what happens in that meeting is good or bad, go back to your desk, write an email to memorialize it, BCC yourself, as long as it doesn't violate your company policy, and keep a copy. Stick it in your documentation file so that you have it, right? But make sure that you do that, good or bad. So those are my tips for getting the most you can out of performance review process and getting ready for it. I really hope this video has been helpful. This might not be the sexiest of topics, but it's a very important topic and it's pretty timely. So I wanted to just mention it as we are in peak performance review period. So I hope this is helpful. If you have questions or comments, please leave it below this video. And this is Anne Marie. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please say that you did so by hitting the like button, subscribing, sharing this video with a friend, and leaving constructive comments. As always, HR is not your enemy, but they're definitely not your friend, but I am. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.